Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for what is our first session of the fall semester. Good morning. I'm just going to wait just a moment before we start broadcasting. Good morning again. Just as a reminder, feel free to use the chat function to communicate, and again, to use the Q&A function for any questions that will be posed to the panelists. Good morning again. My name is Dr. Agatha Caraballo. I'm an associate teaching professor in the Department of Public Policy and Administration and the founding director of the Maurice Ferré Institute for Civic Leadership here in the Stephen J. Green School of International and Public Affairs at Florida International University. I'm really excited to be welcoming today a great panel of civic leaders from the city of West Palm Beach. Please join me in welcoming them. For those of you that this may be your first session or learning about the Maurice Ferré Institute for Civic Leadership, we are a new institute in the School of International and Public Affairs, upholding the legacy of the late Mayor Maurice Ferré, who was the mayor of Miami from 1972 to 1985, and often considered the founder of modern Miami. The Institute is based on the principles of promoting civic engagement and leadership, community infrastructure, and social justice. And this series, the Civic Leadership and Service Series, takes the opportunity to speak with some of our civic leaders on these areas. And with that, I would like to welcome again our panel from the city of West Palm Beach and to acknowledge and thank our sponsors of today's event, including the city of West Palm Beach, the Department of Public Policy and Administration at FIU, the National Forum for Black Public Administrators, NFBPA, South Florida chapter, and the ICMA, International City County Management Association student chapter at FIU. Thank you again for joining us. And at this time, I would like to introduce our moderator for this morning's events, Dr. Philip Harris. Welcome, Dr. Harris, and welcome to everyone from the city of West Palm Beach.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Again, we thank you so much for this amazing partnership that we have with Florida International University. And I have the pleasure and distinct honor to moderate this morning's session. And it is an awesome opportunity to see that our mayor, who I'm about to introduce to you, the best mayor on the land, the best mayor in the planet, and that's Mayor Keith James. Mayor Keith James was elected to the city of West Palm Beach, March 12, 2019, and he is serving through 2023, focused on creating communities of opportunity for all. Mayor James has a vision for West Palm Beach that is resident-driven. Mayor James is committed to creating customer-friendly culture and focuses on neighborhood initiatives, regional collaboration, and community partnerships. Prior to him being elected as mayor, Keith James served as a District 4 city commissioner from 2011 to 2019. As a lawyer in private sector, Mayor James worked with the owners of small and medium-sized companies to help them achieve their dreams as business owners. He also worked with some Florida top firms and frequently guest lectures in business practices and procedures, and has provided a level of corporate and executive experience that has benefited West Palm Beach. Mayor James is the first strong mayor, whereby mayor is the chief executive officer, directly administered structure, and the city's fourth African-American mayor. Mayor Keith James has been West Palm Beach resident for the last 30 years, and it's where he resides with 2 children and has dedicated his life to public service. Mayor James and his wife are proud to call West Palm Beach home. Mayor, the best mayor in the planet.
Okay. First of all, good morning, everyone, and welcome. I promise you, I do not make that a part, that whole business about being the best mayor, I don't make that a part of the introduction. So, but your check's in the mail, brother. Your check's in the mail. I appreciate that. Also, let me correct a little something. I'm not the first strong mayor. I'm the first African-American strong mayor. So I don't want people who get this recording thinking that I forgot about my predecessors as strong mayor. But it's truly, truly a pleasure to be with everyone this morning and to get the opportunity to welcome you to this panel conversation with some of my finest staff members. I'm so proud of this team, West Palm Beach. We are making and will continue to make some great things happen for the city, and I'm sure you'll learn a lot more about some of our initiatives. I am honored, and on behalf of the city, I extend my heartfelt appreciation to FIU, Florida National University, and the Maurice Ferré Institute for Civic Leadership and the Stephen Green School of International and Public Affairs. Thank you for hosting this event. It is truly an honor to participate in something that has been named after a mayor. I like to say whenever I speak that I think it should be a requirement that anyone serving at the state or federal levels in elected positions should have been served as a mayor. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you really get the lessons and how to be a public servant. You can't hide from your constituents. You go to the grocery store, you go to the gas station, you go to the gym, and people do not hesitate to come up and discuss with you their view of what is right and most of the time what is wrong with the city. But what it does do is it really helps you keep your finger on the pulse of what your job is as elected official. And we're all about public service. We are servants of the public. And so a lot of times these the politicians, they get to the state house or Congress or even the White House, and they forget that they are public servants. But I will get off of my soapbox. That's not what I'm here for. I also want to thank you, Dr. Agatha Caraballo, for your partnership and making this discussion possible for FIU students and any West Palm Beach and South Florida residents who may be watching. I think I saw someone here all the way from Tallahassee, so that's great. And of course, I need to thank Dr. Philip Harris, who is a new member of my executive team, but we're so happy and so honored to have him. He's the assistant to the West Palm Beach City Administrator. And in his short time here, he's already been making a big imprint on our city and our culture. And he's going to be moderating this morning's event, as everyone has heard. Just a little bit about our city. We were incorporated in 1893. We celebrated our 125th anniversary just before COVID hit. We are a diverse city with a population of 117,000 and continuing to grow. Actually, West Palm Beach is a majority-minority city, according to the latest statistics. We are the largest city in Palm Beach County. We're the seat of the county, and I think the premier regional economic driver. Our urban core and our premier coastal location helps us to continue to attract residents and businesses from many different sectors. And although I hesitate to say COVID and positive in the same sentence, recognizing the severe impact COVID has had on our nation and indeed the world, if there's anything good or positive that came out of COVID, is that the spotlight has shined and continues to shine very brightly on West Palm Beach. I'll be doing an interview with Bloomberg News later this afternoon to discuss the transformation, what's going on in our city, and try to be, the eyes of certainly the corporate world around the nation and even perhaps around the world are upon West Palm Beach, and it's truly an honor. We have 1,700 employees who work for the city and provide many services, including, of course, public utilities, public works and sanitation, engineering, parks and recreation, our library, housing and community development, art life, economic opportunity, police, fire, and communications. I often say that public safety is job one for any city, but it is not the only job. There is so much more that our residents demand from us as they seek a better quality of life. And I am proud of the team that we have here in the city, and I know they are working. They're working very hard to make sure that our citizens receive the quality of life that they deserve. Dr. Harris alluded to it. I served on the city commission for 8 years and was sworn in as mayor in 2019. My articulated vision when I was campaigning, and something that I've stuck to as I've been serving as mayor, is to create in West Palm Beach a community of opportunity for all. A community of opportunity for all. It is important for me to work to make this city a community where anyone, boy, girl, man, woman, black, white, brown, gay, straight, can find something in this city that they can hang their hat on as they pursue their dreams. And so we work each and every day to make sure that we are that inclusive community. And I alluded earlier to the growth that we're experiencing. And I would consider myself a failure as a mayor if the benefits of this growth did not expand to all sectors, to all four corners of our city. The most underserved neighborhoods should benefit from the growth that we're experiencing, and that's my job. So we prioritize public safety, economic opportunity, workforce and affordable housing, and certainly improved customer service for all of our residents. To me, it's so important that every resident have a voice. And it's equally important that that voice is heard by our elected officials, and that the ideas, inputs, and concerns of those who are elected to serve are utilized to inform government decisions that can improve the lives of everyone. To ensure the viability and vitality of our city for years to come, we work to ensure that there's a healthy democracy, that there's plenty of public participation, and that civic engagement is prioritized. I'm often asked, especially by young people, how they or the public can get involved in their city government. And I encourage everyone to follow, attend, or participate in a public meeting, identify an issue that they're passionate about, and champion, work for that issue, whether it's sustainability, whether it's clean streets, whether it's a safe community, you want to get crime out of your community. Come to the city commission meetings, volunteer for the city. Our committees, our commissions are online. Look and see if there's something there where you can contribute. It's a two-way street. It's not always looking for what the city can do for you. We are often asking people to let us know what you can do for the city. We are a community. It takes us all to build a healthy, vibrant community. As the late Martin Luther King Jr. once said, everyone can be great because everyone can serve. That greatness rests in each and every one of you. So in closing, thank you again to our panelists and participants and everyone watching today. You are here because you care greatly about these issues. Our city, our region, and our nation are all the better for your interests, your energy, your passion, and your ideas. And again, Team West Palm Beach, I am so proud of you. And I know you'll continue to make me proud. So I can't wait to hear all the good reports that come from your services panelists today. Thank you again, everyone, and enjoy today's program. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. So at this point in time of our program, I'm so glad to be able to allow our panelists to do a quick introduction of themselves. And I will start with our Public Works Department.
Thank you. I'm Josh McDermott. I'm the Public Works Director. I've been with the City of West Palm Beach for close to 24 years now. I absolutely love what I'm doing. I love being here. I love the people I work with. I love my boss, the mayor. It's a great place to work. It always has been. I left for a short time. I came back because I loved it so much. Plus, it was a good opportunity for me to come back. Prior to being with the City of West Palm Beach, I was in the United States Marine Corps for 8 years. I joined at a really young age, 17. My parents actually had to sign the permission slip for me to join. But again, I've been here for close to 24 years, and I absolutely love it. It's a great place to work.
Thank you, Josh, for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sabili.
I'm Sibile. I'm the Administrator of Public Art and Culture. And I have what a lot of people consider to be like the fun job, but I have to tell you, that's also stressful. I have a master's in arts administration and policy. So I have a lot of the things that happen in this institution I have studied and experienced. Just a few fun facts about me. I'm a yogi, I meditate. I share these 3 things with you because to be a civic leader, you need to be grounded, and those 3 things ground me, besides obviously my family. So just sharing some fun things.
Beautiful, Celia. Thank you so much. And then we'll go to Mr. Frank Hayden.
Hello, everybody. My name is Frank Hayden. I am the director of the Office of Equal Opportunity, sometimes the Office of Economic Opportunity, but most of the time it's whatever my mayor needs me to do, I step up to the plate to make that happen. I've been with the city for 8 years. Prior to that, I was with the South Florida Water Management District. And the one thing I enjoy about this job is that I'm able to make things happen for people in the community. Businesses who are looking for opportunities with the city, I make it my business to make that happen for them. So I'm looking forward to the discussions today, and hopefully we can inspire some of the students at FIU to step up to the challenge and provide some civic duty to a city in this wonderful state of Florida.
Thank you, Frank. And now we have to my left, your stage right, Jennifer.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Ferré. I have the pleasure of serving the city as the Director of Housing and Community Development. Just to give you a quick overview of my department, we oversee affordable and workforce housing development, homeless services and social services, real estate, and community engagement. So we get to do a lot with our community and serve our community in various ways. I am a resident of West Palm Beach, although I will say I am from Miami. I'm a Hialeah girl. So, had the opportunity or applied for FIU, almost went to FIU, but I did end up going to Barry, but excellent school. And I am honored to be here and to be able to speak to the many students who are watching.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And now our Parks and Recreation Director, Leah.
Good morning. I am Leah Rockwell. I am the Director of Parks and Recreation. I have been with the city for about 24 years. And I actually went to the university in Florida called Florida State University. No offense, FIU. But where I studied Parks and Recreation as a career. So it was my passion to begin with, and I've stuck with my passion throughout my career of over 30 years. So what Parks and Recreation does, other than parks and community centers, we have aquatics facilities, as well as we have community events. So we bring the community together in so many opportunities for civic engagement and to learn about our cultures and our differences and to embrace each other as one city with one goal, and that's for quality of life and prosperity. So I look forward to today, and thank you, Dr. Harris, for inviting me.
Thank you, Leah. And as she would always say, and we know it starts in parks. So, but the historical context and literacy and education, I'm gonna pass it over to our colleague, Lisa.
Hi.
She's here. Come on.
I'm Lisa Hathaway, and I am the director of the Mandel Public Library of West Palm Beach. That is the municipal library of this wonderful city. And I have, like Leah, I went to Florida State University as well and received a library science degree and have worked in libraries now for a very long time. And I started off in city government, and it has been a wonderful experience. And as we'll get into more of this conversation, libraries have always been centered on civic engagement. And it's just a cohesive relationship between libraries and civic engagement. And I'm really excited to share with everyone what we do at this library and what the city is doing as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. So as you can see, we have an amazing panel for you today who represents the city's community and business services leadership. And again, I really want to thank those all around the country, not just FIU and South Florida and West Palm Beach, but we have individuals all over the country. So I'm very, very excited to be able to showcase the city of West Palm Beach this morning. So first, we'll like to start off with a little icebreaker here to ask all our panelists. And that first question would be, and Josh, you can start off by answering this, and they'll just go around, everybody will answer the same question. What are the core values of civic leadership as it pertains to your position?
Okay, for me, it's respect and integrity. I think it's important to treat each other and treat others with respect, regardless of what their position is. It's important to keep people's dignity intact when I'm speaking to them. And also integrity, doing the right thing no matter who's watching. I learned that from being in the military. That was a lesson I learned early on, and I continue to try to do that. I'm not always perfect at it, but I try to do it in my career with the city of West Palm Beach.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sabili?
For me, it's thinking critically, experientially, and politically, and also for advocacy of the arts. So I advocate for the arts to be central to our everyday life. And with that, it's another value is collaboration. I collaborate not only with the community, but I try to nurture new partnerships, develop new partners, and in doing so with the goal of social divide through public art. Because I believe that public art, if it's central to our everyday lives, can break down a lot of barriers.
Can I do some 3 snaps on that one? Frank?
Thank you, Dr. Harris. I think it's important in terms of my view of life and what I work and where I work. I think it's an obligation on our parts to give back to our communities in any fashion, shape, and form. And in my case, it makes it excellent because I get to see folks who normally don't get an opportunity to do business with municipalities, or when I was with the South Florida Water Management District, to open up those doors for them, to make a difference in their lives so that they can make a difference in somebody else's. So I just strive every day to see how many people I can assist and help to get their foot in the door here at the city of West Palm.
Equity, amazing. That's so powerful nowadays more than ever. Let's go over to Jennifer, please, if you don't mind. Answering the same question, if you don't.
So, I think from my perspective, and I'm not just tying it to the work that I do, but I think to leadership overall, it's so important to build trust, right? And especially in government, because it's often said that people don't trust government or they don't trust the political system. And so building trust is so essential, building trust with your team, with your residents, with your colleagues, with your superiors, because that's the core to everything. You work better with people that you trust, you get things done with people that you trust. So I think it's building that, doing what you say you're going to do, following through what you say you're going to follow through on, being a good steward of public dollars, that's first and foremost. And just, building that cohesiveness, because without that foundation, it'll be really difficult to promote anything else. So for me, as it relates to any work that we do, it starts with building trust.
Thank you. Thank you. Leah?
So for me, it's to really empower others. Being in Parks and Recreation, empower others at all different levels of the organization. You don't have to be someone with a title to lead. So I think it's important to allow our all levels of our organization to feel that they have a voice and that they can be heard, to empower them. And that for me, it's to be committed to the community, and it's important for our staff to feel that commitment as well. And what I think is important for us to do is also to allow those different levels of leadership, title or no title, to engage with the community, to actually feel like they are a part of the community. So if we're having a community meeting, they should be at the forefront. It doesn't need to be me. It could be them leading the discussion and hearing from our citizens. So it's really important that all levels are engaged and are empowered to be engaged, to be a part of the discussion, because from the discussion comes hopefully results.
Beautiful. Well said, Leah. And that shows that bottom-up approach philosophy. Lisa?
Yeah, so as library director, I focus on these core values and pretty much what all my colleagues have said as well, but being open, to learning new things is very, very important in a leadership role. Being transparent and being trusting and trusted, as well as there's a participatory aspect that I include as a leader. In other words, I want my staff to come to the table with their ideas and viewpoints. They know the community so well. And I know Leah has talked about that with her staff. You know, they can take a look at our community and say, this is what I think they need. And I listen to them and I allow us to do unique and different things in this library that you won't traditionally see in a public library. It's my mission, and this kind of is part of the mission of the library, to create inspired lives by connecting people with information, resources, and ideas. And that can be done by being a strong civic leader in the community as well. And what we thrive to do at this library is to be a civic educator for our community, a conversation starter, as well as we want to build a community bridge here in the library to be able to allow for that civic engagement. We're a community for all, as the mayor says.
That's absolutely right. Absolutely right. So moving further into kind of a deeper dive in the conversation, and Lisa, I'm gonna come back to you to give you the opportunity to share, because, you know, from a library perspective, it's a little bit more specific, but what does civic literacy and how does your library promote civic literacy?
Okay. So civic literacy is essentially knowing about your world, about your government, about what's going on in your community. And as a library, we play such an important role about, you know, literacy is being able to read, but you also have to be able to read your community, understand the governmental process, understand, for example, how the mayor became the mayor. Getting involved in our community is civic literacy, and the Mandel Public Library makes it a point to provide programming and services to strengthen the civic literacy of our community. If you know how this government is run, if you know how to attend a public meeting, if you know how to send an email to your mayor, your voice can be heard. And the library plays a very integral role in that process. So what we do is we may have voter drives, voter registration drives in our library. We actually took the time to take this census and debunk all of the fake media and news that surrounded the census during 2020. And on top of that, and I know that I sent some links about that, we actually have fake news YouTube videos to help explain to our citizens the difference between what's real news and what's fake news. So libraries play such an integral role in educating our community, informing our community, and that's what civic literacy is. As well as we might curate for the Black Lives Matter movement, a book collection, electronic book collection, which was really important when our library was closed, so people could learn more about that movement. So our role with civic literacy is to make our community more informed and ready to take those steps towards social change.
Wow. Wow. Thank you, Lisa. That was pretty deep. You know, we have a lot of knowledge around this table. However, we have a colleague, as you heard in our introduction, has been with the city for many years. And so I'm gonna go to our Parks and Recreation Director, Leah, because this question, I think you can bring some true knowledge and wisdom to our viewers. Based on your experience, what are some of the most pressing issues that local municipalities like the city of West Palm Beach are facing?
Well, it's really across the country, across the nation. Currently hiring quality workers and retaining staff. That really right now is, I think, our pressing issue. And Josh is over there going, yeah. What we're finding is that some individuals are preferring to stay home, as well as this generation, and I don't want to talk about Generation X and Generation Y, but there seems to be our younger population when we were kids, we couldn't wait to get a job. We couldn't wait to get our driver's license. We couldn't wait to be more independent. It seems that this current generation of young workers are not as eager right now to get out and get employed and have the money in the pocket that they're personally earning. So we're having a tough time hiring staff and quality staff. Because we are government, there is a background check, and what you do in your youth could follow you through adulthood. So there are things that are coming up on people's background checks that are just not making them hireable. And then having a work ethic. So those are one of the difficulties that we're facing right now. Pressing issues is quality workers, retaining staff, because there aren't a lot of quality workers right now. All the municipalities are taking from each other. They're upping their offers so that a good worker will jump ship from our city and go to a neighboring city. That way they won't have to move. They're not leaving the area. They're just jumping ship to another municipality. We want people to better themselves. That is a part of who we are. However, we hate to lose our good resources and our good people. They make the city great. And then managing expectations. That is our biggest thing. And I know Dr. Harris has started here trying to manage some of the expectations of our community of what they think that we should be doing versus what we really have the resources to be able to do. And so right now, working on managing expectations, not just from within our organization, but the community as a whole. So those are some of the challenges that local municipalities, including West Palm Beach, are working through. So
Thank you, Leah. And for our viewers and our young people, if you are looking for opportunities, this is just a little quick PSA. City of West Palm Beach is looking for you. All right. So, as well as, more specific, our Public Works Department, our Parks and Recreation, our Housing and Community Development, Economic Opportunities, and libraries, we are looking for great individuals like yourself. So please have the opportunity to go on our website, www.wpb.org. Next question I'm gonna go to is to Jennifer, our Housing Community Development Director. This is kind of going to really leadership in itself. And that's really important as public administrators, but in the field of, from a civic engagement perspective, what leadership qualities do you think are most important on building strong communities from a community development aspect?
Obviously, well, when you talk about community development, you're thinking, infrastructure, housing, all of those things that physically make a community strong. But I think the most important aspect of building a strong community and how you do that is through empowering them. And there's a difference between empowering and enabling. So of course, to simply put it, enabling is to do something for someone, but empowering them is teaching them how to do that. How do you do that? Of course, through promoting capacity building, educating your residents through some of the programs that even Lisa talked about. Educate them on how they can be involved with the city, on what the issues are, and how they can really, bring their priorities forward and let their voices be heard. You want to give them a seat at the table just like this one. There's an issue, something that's taking place. Sometimes people just want to be heard and they want to understand what's going on. I think create trust. I talked a little bit about that. That's important and anything and building consensus and getting things done. You want to build trust and you want to broaden people's perspectives. People will only know what they know. But if you teach them and you give them the tools and you give them the ability to and empower them to make decisions and to be at the table and to be involved in the community, that's how you build a strong community. It starts with the people. In essence, you can build all the great infrastructure, but you have to have the people at the table that are empowered to make a difference in their communities.
Wow. I'm glad that Jennifer highlighted a reference to, community development. So many times we think of, the buildings and infrastructures, but in essence, the people themselves make the community. And so that's a philosophy that we put here in the city of West Palm Beach related to building up people. So thank you, Jennifer, for that response. I'm gonna go to Frank, who's our director over our economic opportunity. Frank, if you don't mind sharing with us, how do you align economic opportunity with the city's vision and mission?
Well, Doc, thank you very much for raising that question. As I was growing up, a younger person, it was instilled in me that you have to give back, because most of us did not obtain where we are without somebody blazing that path ahead of us. So I've kind of carried that with me throughout my life and things that I do. And I think it's important as we talk with our people in the community about our city and what opportunities we have here, we have to let them know that this is their city. Everything that we do is for them, not for us, and that they have a responsibility to step up and blaze that path for the person that's coming behind them. And if you do that, then people begin to take ownership in terms of what they do. And as I said, in my position, I'm able to help people get jobs, get an income, which then in turn, they can raise their family, and their children then see them as a positive entity. And so they want to move ahead and do better. So that's the thing that I like about this city, as you heard from our mayor. He insists that we contribute to the growth of the city of West Palm Beach. And each of us, as you heard them talk, we do it in our own special way, so that as it all comes together, it makes a better city for all of our residents and for us as well as employees of the city.
Beautiful. Sabili, from the Art Life perspective, Art Life West Palm Beach, you have done some phenomenal work in our city. And a lot of that work has been related to collaboration with citizens and residents in our community. You have our Arts Life Council who are fully engaged in the work when we're looking at public art across the city. So share with our viewers today, what are the core values you should be advocated to build a progressive art community?
I love that question. So it's diversity, equity, inclusion, advocacy. The diversity starts with the artists. Artists of diverse backgrounds have diverse art practices, which means that we get very unique artworks. And that diversity to me equals excellence. So from there, it goes to equity. The main goal, one of many main goals of the Art Life program is to ensure that equitable distribution of public art occurs throughout the city. So then it goes into inclusion. So we know that socioeconomic and geographic boundaries play a role in not affording an individual the accessibility of experiencing the arts. So this is where public art plays a really big role, because public art in itself, being in the public realm, makes it a democracy. It is accessible to all, which goes back to the equity, which goes back to the diversity. So then it goes to the main thing that I always keep saying, which is advocacy. Advocacy that with public art, with arts and culture, you can really build a strong community. And I just keep going back to that. That's like my catchphrase, advocacy. So I think those main things are part of our goal for the Art Life program. And with that, things fall into place. Now, that said, I also constantly go back to my Art Life committee, and we ask really hard questions. We have to ask those complicated, challenging, and be courageous enough to say, what happens when it's disruptive or ununderstood, or somehow becomes not inclusive? So we go back, diversity, equity, inclusion, and how do we advocate so that everyone has the ability to experience the arts and culture like everyone should, in their own manner.
Oh, wow, beautiful, beautiful. Let's go to our public works. Josh has been the lead on a major initiative that our city mayor is all about, which is keeping our city clean, enhancing our quality of life for all. And this work would not be done if our residents and citizens weren't engaged and involved. And so it's been comprised of external and internal various different departments. And I applaud Josh as the Public Works Director for these major accomplishments. So Josh, share with our viewers and tell us a little bit more about this Clean Streets Task Force group that I keep hearing so much about. It's just the hot thing on the street right now. Literally.
That's good to know. So this is something I'm really proud of. I'm proud to be part of. I work with an amazing group of people. Leon Pender, he's my sanitation superintendent. Amy Marks, she's my administrative superintendent. Both of them have my back and they support me 100% on this. And I couldn't do it without them and their teams as well. So as part of Mayor Keith James' commitment to neighborhoods first, he started this Clean Street process basically, and it was launched through the Neighborhoods First coordinator, Tiffany David. To further enhance that effort, we created a task force and also to hold people accountable and also build on that. So like Dr. Harris mentioned, we have citizens that are members of our task force, and we have 3 subcommittees. We also have almost every department in the city of West Palm Beach as part of this task force. On the committees, we have an illegal dumping subcommittee, a abandoned vehicle subcommittee, and we also have a litter subcommittee, which we recently got permission from the commissioners to become a Keep America Beautiful affiliate, which is another thing I'm really proud of. It's going to add some huge resources to us, and we're going to complete a litter index, and we'll be able to prioritize and focus our efforts on certain areas of the city that need to be improved as far as litter goes. Some of our accomplishments, the relationships that we've been able to build with the different departments, specifically the police department, they've been a huge help to us. There's 3 sergeants I want to mention: Sergeant Gellin, Sergeant Heiser, and Sergeant Pruz. They've been a huge help to us. We've it's unfortunate that it's come to this, but we've made 5 arrests recently related to illegal dumping. The community sees these efforts, and I think they're starting to build we're starting to build trust. I know trust is a common theme here. A lot of neighborhoods realize that we care and we're there to help their neighborhoods. What we do in public works, not only in sanitation, but the other areas of public works, everything we do impacts quality of life, and it is related to safety, whether it's fixing a pothole, a sidewalk, a street light, all these things impact quality of life and the safety of our residents. So it's something I'm really proud of.
Thank you, Josh. I mean, I'm very proud of the great work that you and the team has been showcasing in our city and addressing, but at the end of the day, the concerns that come from our residents, we are addressing those issues block by block, across our whole city. So it's nothing that's going to happen overnight, but with the work and collaboration, we're able to make a lot of great things happen. If we can go to full view of the room here, I want to do an open question again to across the room, and I think this is important related to the conversation that FIU students and our viewers really want to hear. And this question ties to: what role do you believe that civic leadership plays in promoting democracy and or social justice? So I'm gonna go to Sabili first. You can just stay full room. You can go to Sabili first to answer that question for me.
So the question is within my leadership role, right?
So it's in general. So in what role do you think or you believe that civic leadership plays in promoting democracy and or social justice?
So just the idea that I am a public servant, I know that my role is to ensure that whatever action I take within my position is for the democracy of the people. I am trying to fulfill a really large, and I think I take pride in knowing that I am responsible for putting my best foot forward in providing access to something I truly believe in. I've said it before, I cannot understate the value that arts and culture play And so within my role as a public servant, I know that I am contributing to the democracy of accessibility for everyone to experience this, but also with it in of recent to have a platform for social justice to occur, because within the space that public art holds, and it goes back into my position, is a place where people can relate to one another, but even more importantly than that, I think people can relate to oneself. And if you know how to relate to yourself, you will relate to others in a really, calm and beautiful and more engaging and inclusive way.
Good, good. Let's go across the table to Leah. Same question.
So, for me, first I have to understand individual values and their ideals of equity, and to create the opportunity for everyone to have access and be included or have inclusion. So, but first, in Parks and Recreation, we need to figure out what the underlying cause is for the inequity or the lack of the social justice. So we have to look at each community. I have community centers throughout the city in all different parts of the city and different types of neighborhoods. And so in each of those neighborhoods, the social injustice may be different, but still could be the same. So we really have to look at the underlying cause and try and fill that void. So we offer during our after school programs a whole myriad of types of programs and activities to try and to balance out that inequality. So we work with a lot of STEM programs, STEAM programs for the education of our youth, because we've got to start somewhere. And if we start with our children, we think that over time, democracy can grow, as well as we can improve social justice across the board. So we're starting with our youth, and oftentimes we know that, for instance, with sustainability or with stuff like recycling, which is, a whole different subject matter. But if you start with the kids, they take that knowledge home to their parents. And so we're trying to get our youth to try and educate the adults in our community to fill that void and to create greater democracy. And we bring it in with all of the things that we do, from designing a playground. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's a democratic process that we use in designing a playground. We go out to the playgrounds, we ask people what they want. So we're right there with the people in that neighborhood, asking the questions, and to as far as what color do you want your playground to be. So we want to make sure that we're inclusive and that we find that root cause to try and eliminate, or at least heal it the best that we can.
That's great, Leah, because you're talking about breaking generational forms of behavior, of patterns.
Right.
And so if you're able to have that captive audience of our young people who can, and has, in essence, at times, parents will listen to their children. And so that's a really good approach and strategy on doing that. You'll notice in the chat, I'll probably post it there shortly, as Leah was talking in reference to, we actually have Howard Park designed. It's actually this evening. Is it this evening, Leah? Howard Park?
I think it's Thursday.
Thursday. Okay,
Yeah, we're designing a community center.
Community
we have
center.
some architects there.
Correct. Absolutely. So that shows the form of democracy, what she's talking about.
Right, because it's not about what I want, it's what the community wants.
Exactly. Lisa, yeah,
Well,
I see you're itching there. So
I
go
am.
ahead. Answer the question.
So I'm a librarian and I brought a book.
Yay.
What's that book? Let's zoom
for
in.
all-
Let's zoom in here.
For all of the students and our civic leaders, it's going to be probably hard to read this.
Oh, yeah.
It's called Palaces for the People: How Social Infrastructure Can Help Fight Inequality, Polarization, and the Decline of Civic Life by Eric Kleinenberg. Many of you probably heard of this book. It's an amazing book, and it's actually everything we're talking about right now how our public institutions and what we do as a city impact our community members, and looking at how we look at inequality in our communities and what we can provide to our community, and how we can have our community share with us what they need, not what we think they need, and even what they want. And as a library, we have long been seen as the most democratic institution. I mean, libraries have been around forever. We bring people together, just as our community centers. And librarians, our role is to really bridge that gap between apathy and engagement by opening up our library for everybody and anybody. I don't care who you are, you can use our library. And we are going to have services that touch everybody. And that's what's so exciting about working in a library. And I know, FIU doesn't have a library science program, but don't let that hold you back. Take a look and see what's going on in our public libraries. We're changing. And what we're doing is we are opening up the doors to access and really looking at our underserved populations. And I'll just give you a really quick example.
Sure, good.
We noticed, we were talking with our parents and our kids. We're like, why are you not checking out any books? You need to be checking out books. And they're like, oh man, I have so many overdues. I lost my book. And we're just like, okay, this is ridiculous. I'm here to inform. I'm here to provide you wonderful services, to the free after school homework centers, to free lunches in the summer. We said, you know what? Let's just get rid of fines. So now there's no more overdue fines in our library because it was affecting our community. Okay. And so now you're not going to get an overdue fine. And on top of that, and this might get a little bit too technical, but we got rid of you having to renew your own books on your own. The system does it all on its own. So you don't have to navigate our website or get a phone call. And that's really helpful for an older population of people. So when we talk about the role of civic leadership in democracy and social justice, that's what the library is here for, really.
Wow.
And I'll end it on that, and check out our website, WPB-citylibrary.org, because I think you'll be very surprised at what this library is doing for our community. It's above and beyond, and we work really well with Parks and Rec and HCD to take a lot of their programs and art life. We're actually getting lots of art in our library for the first time ever. So it's just been great. The collaboration that all of our departments have is really what makes this city a great city.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. How many times I'm gonna keep using the word beautiful? So one thing that I wanted to mention, I was talking to a colleague of mine with the National Forum for Black Public Administrators. She happened to be in Alexandria, Virginia. And last week, they actually hosted a forum related to the first sit-in in a library in Alexandria, Virginia. And the African-American and Black community felt that they should have access to library books. And this community was the first, not first community, but it was the first sit-in that happened in that community in 1940. So again, the library is here for a reason, for multiple reasons. Jennifer, how do you feel about this question? I think I need to come to you next because I feel like
I'm itching too.
Let's go.
Well, I mean, you can't talk about social justice and promoting democracy without talking about housing. I mean, if you look at, and luckily and thankfully I'm tasked with promoting that. And if you look at just the history of the discriminatory housing practices, you're talking about lending practices, segregated neighborhoods, neighborhoods of high areas of concentrated poverty. I think it's absolutely our role to undo a lot of that and to put policies and programs in place that do that. I can tell you a little bit about, before I get to that, also talking about, the gentrification of neighborhoods. You want to develop neighborhoods. You want to have neighborhoods of mixed income and mixed use. And however, you want to make sure that you take care of the individuals who have been in these neighborhoods, their hope for generation after generation. So luckily, and I'm very grateful to be in a position where I have the opportunity to undo some of those negligent and discriminatory housing policies. So what we are doing at the city is we're promoting, obviously, the development of affordable and workforce housing, but we're doing that in high-cost areas throughout the city. How do we build in more mixed income in our communities? Our downtown, we just passed a housing ordinance where we're incentivizing development and developers to set aside some units for affordable and workforce housing. You don't want to drive by a building and know, well, oh, everybody that's in there makes this amount of money. You don't want to know that. You want to know you live in this building and it doesn't matter whether you're a teacher or a restaurant worker or a CEO. You know, everybody should have the ability to have safe and sustainable and affordable housing. We're creating home ownership opportunities for low-income individuals. As you know, home ownership is probably one of the ways where people start to build wealth, right? You have an asset, you own a home, and then that passes on generation through generation. And obviously we have a variety of rental assistance programs and home repair programs. So there, again, I think it is absolutely the city's responsibility and our responsibility, and we take that, and this is one of the mayor's biggest initiatives in our city, is to continue to promote inclusionary housing, to continue to promote housing for all, to continue to promote that it doesn't matter how much money you make, the color of your skin, or what language you spoke when you were born, in your earlier years, you should have access to affordable, decent housing. So
Yeah.
I'll leave it at
So
that.
let's call it what it is. Jennifer, we're in a position as a city really to dismantle racism. That is the direction in which we are starting to move as a city and changing policy to make that happen. And it's good to know that as we're looking at expanding our housing initiative, we are utilizing a racial equity lens, Frank, bring it home for us too, from an economic opportunity with small businesses and minority women businesses too.
Thank you, Doc. And I think what you've heard from everyone who has spoken here, this is not just a job for us. This city is our community. We're actively involved in community organizations. We get involved with those community organizations, and that way we know what's going on out in the community, and we have an idea of what it is that the community needs and how we ought to go about making that happen. As Doc spoke, in my role, I'm involved with a number of business organizations like the Black Chamber and some others. And so I clearly understand what the problems that are facing a number of the minority-owned business, women-owned businesses, small businesses. And so we're developing programs here at the city that can assist them in eliminating the problems that they have. Example, a lot of small businesses can get a project and then they discover that they need money to perform the project. So what we've done at the city, we've developed a relationship with some local banks here so that if a business gets a contract with us, they can go to that bank, and the bank, that is, if their credit is such a level that they can be assured that they'll get their money back, that the bank will provide them with some upfront money so that they can perform their job. We found out from other folks as well that I liken them like that they can put a window up, but they don't know how to do a business so that they can get contracts to be able to install windows. So we do training for them so that they can make that happen. All of this helps to break those barriers that have kept people who look like us, younger people, from obtaining where they need to go. And the last thing I will say is this, for the students there at FIU, you have a responsibility and an obligation to help your community, because someone, and you might not have known who that person was, blazed that path so that you can be where you are today. And so it's your responsibility and your duty to blaze the path for the next person. And you might not even know who that next person is, but that person got to where they were because you took the time to take part in your community and to ensure the fact that they'd be a success just like you've become.
Thanks, Frank. So from Josh's perspective, in Public Works, we have the sanitation department that falls in his shop. And, you know, historically, Josh, back in February of 1968, if we remember, in Memphis, Tennessee, we had, this is an opportunity where we're talking about democracy, where unions obviously came together and they unified and they went on strike. And so, you know, to this question specifically, Josh, how do you see that civic leadership plays in that promoting democracy in your sanitation department or division within your department?
I think it goes back to respect. I didn't know you were going to take that angle, but I'm glad you did. I think, I came up through the ranks. I'm pro-union. I know it's detrimental to me sometimes to say that, could be possibly. But, but I am pro-union. I was a union shop steward in SEIU. I was a shop steward in my professional organization as and PMSA. I believe, we have to treat those employees fairly and respectfully. There's unions were created kind of with the safety aspect in mind. We wanted to create a safe environment for our workers. So, I think we have to treat them, if you become a leader, I look at, Leon Pender, he's my superintendent. I look to him for inspiration. He's not afraid to get his hands dirty. I do the same thing. I try to lead by example. I try to, encourage others to do whatever they can to build themselves. That's what I did, any kind of training opportunities there. So, it's important to offer these training opportunities to employees and, make them feel valued because they are, I can't succeed if they don't succeed, so everything I can do to help them succeed. That's my main job as a director, as a supervisor. So just offering that support and, making sure they know they're valued. So I try to do.
Thanks, Josh, for answering that question, because just because you complete your degree in college with a bachelor's degree doesn't mean, or a master's degree or a doctorate degree, doesn't mean that you still can't learn more, right? On the job, you want to perfect your craft, but there's opportunities where as city employees and organizations, municipal, county government, state, federal government, we want to invest in our employees. And so there's ongoing training that we offer to our employees. So at this point in time in our program, it's 10:35. We're going to go ahead and jump into some questions that may be in the chat that we can, that our audience and viewers may want to address to our panelists.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate. I want to, if everyone, we do have emojis, even though we don't have the reactions, we can use the clap emojis in the chat to thank everyone. I'm going to go to the first question that's in the Q&A. It's from France Williams. And he says, thank you for sharing your time, City of West Palm Beach. After a challenging 2020, can you offer your reflections on how municipal government, example, parks, libraries, procurement, policies, can meet the opportunities around racial, economic, and environmental justice?
Who feels comfortable with? Go ahead.
What's everybody pointing at me?
For sure.
I can talk.
Go ahead, Leah.
So Leah Rockwell, again, Parks and Recreation. So with us, just before, and it's one of my other questions that I have an answer to, but we passed a $30 million bond referendum just before COVID hit. And with that bond referendum, we are going to be doing we are in the process of doing a massive redo of our park system. One of our master plans said, fix what we have versus expanding our park system. So as a part of that, we are, when we hire architects, engineers, craftsmen, as a part of that, we are employing our community. So we are offering opportunities for people to get back into the workforce, to actually be out there working to create these great spaces or to improve these great spaces within their own neighborhoods. So I feel very passionate about using those funds to really continue to grow our community through hiring local talent, local businesses, whether it's minority, women, small businesses, or even big firms that can then bring in their subcontractors that are our local businesses. So that's how I feel that as a city, we are creating opportunity for us to dig our way out of this COVID hole that we're in to being, again, we are a vibrant, but a healthier city.
Lisa, you want to add a little bit to
Sure,
that?
just quickly, our library recognized once we reopened in September that we just weren't getting a lot of our community members coming back in because they were still very nervous because of COVID, rightfully so. And so we applied for a grant with IMLS, and now we have a Mandel Mobile, which is a hybrid minivan that's now going into our underserved communities, those same communities that were visiting us. Now we're going to them, and Jennifer's department helped train us in rent assistance. So we go out there and we help people with rent assistance. We help kids with homework. We also help people update their resumes. We check out Chromebooks and hotspots to people. So it's essentially, we had to pivot, as everyone uses that word during COVID. So we pivoted, and now our library is driving out into our local parks to visit our community members that are just not comfortable at this point of coming back to our library.
So innovatively in COVID, we had to, change our thinking of the way that we normally would do business. I'm glad that Leah brought that up, because as I shared with you all before, we're looking for young people and talented people who are looking for opportunities to come work here. But if you're viewing and you have a business or you're inspiring, we want you to here in West Palm Beach too as well. So please look at these opportunities. Next question.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your responses. The next one was posted in the chat and comes from Elizabeth Tetrault, and it's kind of a segue from the last about the COVID, pandemic. And it asks us, what can you do as civic leaders to address this imminent threat to health and economic well-being?
If I might.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
I think it's a problem that can be and should be addressed by those of us in community leadership. We teamed up with the TJ. It's a Black organization of doctors, and I can't think of their name right now, to help us deliver that message to minorities in the community about the importance of going out and getting their shots and getting checked and so forth, because a lot of people just didn't feel comfortable with that. And so through that mechanism, you're able to answer their questions and to also help them deal with this dilemma they're going through. And so that to me is how leaders within communities step up to deal with issues that go on in the community as well. And as a result of that, we see more people going to get tested and so forth and so on. And they feel a lot better about what's going on in their life.
Thank you, Frank. Do we have another question there in the chat?
We do, thank you. The next question comes from Alex Parsons, and he asks, you've all dedicated your lives and careers to public service, which is amazing and commendable. How can members of the community volunteer in our free time outside of our own careers in the private sector?
Well, I'll take volunteers. Library's always looking for volunteers. Come on down. And we love subject expertise, especially with library programming. So, if you have a programming idea and you want to share information about the community, about what your talents are or your subject expertise, reach out to the library here, and we would love to present that.
So also our city, like many cities and local governments, we have within our Parks and Recreation Department, but it may be within the mayor's office, have an office of volunteers. So we have a volunteer coordinator that if you go into our city website, there is a whole page on how you can volunteer for the city.
Yes.
And we'll take a look at your experiences or what you're interested in doing. Or if you don't really know what you want to do, we can certainly give you some ideas of the things that we've got going on that might pique your interest. but there's always opportunities in every community. And I have to tell you, before I got into working in public service, I was in the private sector, and I volunteered for a local huge event that was in this area. And through volunteering, I met the people that helped me with my career move into a different direction, as well as be successful, because then they were resources and mentors that I could use, that I still have to this day. So through volunteering, the doors can really open up for you, not just for you, but while you're giving back to the community.
So you're saying that networking goes
I
hand in
am.
hand with volunteering?
It does.
I never connected the two, sweat equity and volunteering is a really good, powerful opportunity, because you don't realize who knows who and how far that network will go. And I will even share with you, in our housing and community development side of the house, every year annually, we have our point in time count, right? Where we go out and we count our homeless population in the community. We need lots of volunteers to help out with that experience. Jennifer?
Yeah, and I also say it's not just within the city, because again, the city is just the city, but there's so many nonprofits and other organizations within our city that you can also volunteer for, which indirectly impacts our city as a whole, right? So it's not just what you can do or what ways you can support the city of West Palm Beach, the government, city itself, but there's a lot of other organizations that really add value to our city that could use help.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. We have a couple more questions, which I'll try to go through as many as possible. The next one is from Jean-Claude Ndongo, and he asks, along with the great initiatives for diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as opportunities for minority-owned business, does the city of West Palm Beach have any specific budgeting policies in place for racial and gender equity?
Right.
Well, I'm trying to think. Let me attempt to answer it like this. Within our programs that we have here, we have what we refer to as sheltered market program, that are only those firms who are certified as small businesses can compete for those projects. So you're not competing against the larger firms, you're competing with people on your same level. And so that has enabled a number of small businesses to get their foot in the door, to do some work with us. Then we discover that they're excellent contractors, and then that just leads them to getting more and more work. And the other thing that I would say to you, I mentioned to you earlier, we have a relationship with some banks, but we're going to be starting in our new fiscal year, which begins October 1, we're going to start a loan program for certified SBEs, MWBs here in the city. If you're certified with the city of West Palm Beach and you are a business owner in the city of West Palm Beach, you can apply for some funding that's between $5,000 to $20,000. You can use it for hiring, buying equipment, or bringing on some additional staff to do work for you. So those two things are some things that we are targeting for our small and minority-owned businesses to kind of help you get a leg up and get your foot in the door.
I'll also add one thing that's currently a big part of what the city's focusing on. Our mayor has convened a racial and ethnic task force. And what that task force is tasked with doing is reviewing our internal policies or programs, and they're reviewing different areas. And so to ensure that we're promoting racial and ethnic equality, they're looking at the areas of criminal justice, the areas of education and workforce, finance, banking and business, health, and real estate and housing. So there's different individuals from either internal staff and external members of the private and public sector. And they're looking at the policies that are currently in place and things that we can do to move forward in those efforts and things that we can implement. Our department, we also won a grant with Florida Housing Coalition, and that grant is called Closing the Gap. We were one of 2 municipalities in the entire state to win that grant. And it's a technical assistance grant, and it is going to help us look at our policies and programs and initiatives in order to increase the Black home ownership rate within our city. So that's going to start, we're going to start looking at that, and it's a 2-year technical assistance grant. So there is a lot going on as it relates to racial, ethnic equity within our city.
And I just, if I could, Doc, I think those are just examples of why any of you students there who want to come work for a fine city, that's why you ought to come visit us here at the city of West Palm Beach.
That's right. Thank you, FIU.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This next question comes from my colleague, Dr. Christina Rodriguez Acosta from the Gordon Institute of Public Policy. And she asks, what's the best advice you've given to a young professional who wants to address issues of inequality in the provision of services, but is not sure how to actually go about doing it?
Dr. Harris, why don't you answer that question?
You're a prime person.
I'm just a moderator. I'm just a moderator. So, so one thing, can you repeat the question for me again?
Sure. It's basically for students and young professionals who want to address issues of inequality in the provision of services, but aren't quite sure how to go about addressing those issues.
How to address the issues. So one golden rule my mom always said is a closed mouth will never get fed. And so you have to voice your concerns, and there's different ways of going about doing that. You know, at times, whether you're doing it verbally or non-verbally. And so sometimes you may feel more comfortable in putting that in writing and sharing that with a person or a confidant whom you feel comfortable to share your concerns, because, you know, local government is very political, and local government is very political, and policy makers are in decisions, and sometimes they may drive on their own interests. And if you're able to align your specific issues that you find that are important to you in your community, to build that alliance, whether you have a one-on-one conversation, but I'll tell you this, it's really important, to believe it or not, to connect with their administrative aides and their staff, because we are in the world of operations. And so as policymakers, they're there to address policy. We're here to facilitate the operations and policies that have been put in place to implement. And so sometimes some of those policies as young people that you may feel uncomfortable about, you speak with the staff members, meet with them one-on-one, have coffee with them. Again, we said volunteer with them. There may be a volunteer experience, and that is an opportunity to break ground to where you may feel comfortable as you're doing a litter cleanup in your neighborhood, and have those conversations, because again, a closed mouth will not get fed. And the more that you start doing it, the more comfortable you'll start feeling, because the anxiety will bubble up if you've never been in a position of, you know, voicing your concerns, especially if it's dealing with race. It is a very uncomfortable conversation at times when you're bringing up topics that are dealing with race, and the individual may find it be judgmental, but don't take it personal. So one of, and I'll give this to you for free. This is from the Dr. Phil show. I use the term called Q-tip, quit taking it personal. So don't take it personal if they respond back a certain way in your response to them. And don't let that stop you or hinder you from your voice not being heard. Don't close your mouth and just go away and don't address the issue. Go through the next door, right? Have the opportunity to bring that issue to someone else.
Dr. Harris, I'll add to just, and I agree with everything you're saying, but I will also add that you have to educate yourself on the issue itself, because there's a lot of misrepresentation and a lot of, you may think that this specific issue is this when really it's this, or you may walk down the street and say, well, the city of West Palm Beach doesn't care about this neighborhood. Look at how dirty the streets are. But you may not know that Josh has a program, but somebody just, there's something going on, right? So I just think it's also important to educate yourself. Correct. And to understand, you know, why certain things have to be the way that they are, or why they're that way, and then you can change them. But I think educating yourself is critical to being effective and getting your voice heard.
And I would just say too, there are organizations out there that you can join, and the majority of them have a young professional component of that. You know, it's like with the Urban League or the Hispanic Council or the Black Council. You join those, and you then can bounce your ideas off some other people, hear what others think about it. And that way you begin to learn, grow, And it's a lot better when you're part of a group fighting an issue than you're just standing out there all by yourself trying to make it happen.
Yes. Dr. C, I don't know how many more questions you have in the chat, but I did want, before we close out, I did have a closing question I wanted to ask everyone. Is this the appropriate time to ask that question? Or did you have some more in the chat you want to bring up first?
That's fine. Go ahead and you can go to that question.
So kind of as closing remarks for our group, but of course, if there's more questions we can address, but I want to make sure I get this question in. Any advice for students seeking a career in public service? I really want to have this opportunity to help groom the next pipeline within local government, but primarily even here with the city of West Palm Beach. So I'm just be selfish in that moment, but can you share any advice that you feel that students who are seeking careers in public service, because even though they're an accountant major in the College of Business, does not mean we don't need accountants in the city. Just because you're a mechanical engineer doesn't mean that, yes, you go work for a firm out making big money in the private sector, but you can make good money and great benefits with the city. Just because you're a communication major doesn't mean that we don't have communication folks within the city. So, this is a great opportunity for you to kind of showcase that and say why we need you. Start off with you, Lisa, please.
Okay. Well, obviously I'm a librarian, and we get a lot of staff. This is a great place to work, our library. So we get a lot of high schoolers who shelve our books, and then they say, I'm going to go to college to be a librarian. And so what's interesting is what I try to tell them is, working for a municipality, working for a county, you get the best of two worlds. For example, I can be a librarian, but I can also make change, because you are going to work in a community that needs you. And that's like the best feeling in the world, to go into your community and know that you're affecting change, but also know you're going to be working hard and you're going to get very committed, and it's going to take up a lot of your time, but it's the best way to spend your time, knowing that you are making real change in your city, your county, or even if you get a job in a small town, you become a citizen of your city, even if you don't live in your city. But when you work, you might as well live in it, because you're here all the time.
Yeah.
But it's wonderful.
Good.
I'll turn it over to Leah, because I know she's got some good advice.
Go ahead, Leah.
So I don't know if many of you have watched Simon Sinek and his some of his lectures or educational opportunities, but knowing your why. So before you figure out what you want to do or who you want to be, what's your why? Why do you want to be an accountant? Why do you want to be a librarian? Why do you want to be an athletics coordinator in a Parks and Recreation department? What's your why? And so to understand why you do what you do, within public service, you should understand your personal motivation. Again, your why. And in public service, at times, community can be unkind and thankless. But because you have your why and you're grounded in your why, you continue to charge forward. And with your why, be your authentic self. So you really have to understand what makes you tick and be authentic and meaningful. So choose your path of passion. And you will be richer for it, not necessarily in your bank account, but in your life in general. You'll just be richer for following your why and your passion. So, you don't have to have a degree in Parks and Recreation to work in Parks and Recreation.
Really?
But you do have to have a passion for making a difference in the lives of everyone that you come across. So that's my tidbit of, it's kind of vague, or not vague, it's broad, but know your why. It has to come from here. It doesn't matter what you do, it has to come from here.
Jennifer?
I really like this question. And I have 3 points. But I'll keep them brief. And this is for a career in public service. and for wherever your life takes you. So one thing, hold yourself and others to a high ethical standards. I promise you, your reputation is far more important than whatever fancy degree or fancy title you may have. So protect that. Number two, surround yourself with quality people, people who are not only going to uplift you and guide you to be better, but people who are also going to check you, call you out, and really tell you a couple truths that you need to listen to. Make sure you get some good mentors that will help guide you. I promise you, they will change your life. Shout out to Dora Miller and Nancy Urchek for being mine. And the third thing, and Leah too.
I thought I was doing it.
Oh, well, you are the people that I surround myself with, so you are a part of, of that. And then the third thing, and this is funny, but I love to say this, and I can't trademark because somebody that's cooler than me stole it, but be a doer, not a do nothing. The only way that you're going to accomplish anything in your life is through action. You can talk a big game, but you have to back it up in essence. So those are my three things.
Frank?
Well, if you haven't noticed yet, I'm kind of the older guy in the group. I've been in public service for a little over 50 years. I did 35 with the city of West Palm Beach, and 10 in some other places, and 5 here and there. But it has been the most rewarding job that I've ever had. Because as others have said, you get to see the results of what you're doing. It's not like in some other industries, you don't see the end result. Here, working and doing the public service, you get to see the impact of what you've been able to deliver. So if you want a job that's going to be rewarding, and Leah's right, you're not going to get rich, that's for sure, except you're going to get rich in the knowledge that you were able to help your community become a better place.
Sabili?
So I believe in experimental knowledge. You need to experience it. The more you experience outside of your safety zone, like what you're comfortable with, the richer you're going to be coming into public service. So go out there, seek new things through volunteerism, through internships, through reading, through networking. It will help you when you come into public service to know a whole lot more than what you just studied. And I'll share a personal story. So I was in the private sector, I've been in the nonprofit sector. At one point out of college, I was working for a very well-known, high-end, reputable art gallery. And my dean of school, my old dean of school, he came in one day and he threw me a note and he goes, Sabile, whenever you're ready to make an impact, here's my number. So a few months later, I called him and public service opened it. Awesome.
Wow.
That's cool.
Josh?
Yeah, Jennifer mentioned the importance of mentors, and I couldn't agree more with that statement. I had a few really awesome mentors that I still look up to and I still stay in communication with, or, I call them frequently. Dr. Calcat in utilities, she helped me with my career. Darren Hollyfield, he's an assistant director, is actually his last day at the city of West Palm Beach is today. He'll be missed. He helped me extremely in my career. Scott Kelly, he was the old city administrator. I looked up to those. I think it's really important to have a mentor, and mentors don't always have to be somebody who's above you. There's a few superintendents in utilities that I looked up to, and they reported to me. So they helped me out. I remember, some really tough times in my life that they've helped me get through, and it's important to have that kind of relationship. And if you find yourself in a leadership position, it's really important to lead by example. I can't stress that enough. And don't be afraid to get dirty if the time. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. C.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for sharing and for the wonderful advice to our students and just to all of our participants. As we start to wrap up, I did want to just share in the chat some information for those of you that want to learn a little bit about the Maurice A. Ferré Institute for Civic Leadership. Please visit our website. Of course, I'm going to make a pitch for our upcoming events, which you can find at our website, go.fiu.edu, Ferré 2021 class. We have next week our Miriam Singer from President and CEO of the Jewish Community Services Florida. Later this semester, we'll also have Cecil Schoon, President of the League of Women Voters of Florida, as well as Miami-Dade County Mayor Danielle Levine Cava. And of course, can't conclude without a pitch. We would welcome your support. So please, any amount that you can give to donate as we start to develop our programming, having dynamic speaker series, developing internships and mentoring programs for students. And then we're going to also be planning a biannual Civic Leadership Summit coming very soon, as well as a certificate in civic leadership. I know we're running short on time, but again, I just want to thank you all for joining us. Thank all the panelists and our incredible moderator, Dr. Harris. And I really enjoyed learning a lot about the city of West Palm Beach. And I applaud you all for the amazing work that you're doing and inspiring our next generation of public servants.
Thank you, Dr. Garavayo. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.